Hey everybody, welcome back to Real Science with Chris Neal. I have another Geek-Out session for you guys. This is kind of a follow-up Geek-Out session into Anavar. We're going to be talking about Oxandrolone, which is a really cool medication that is prescribable in the United States and for various reasons. But we're going to talk about this and really dig into more of the science behind it. There's another video that's out there that you'll see listed on the YouTube channel where we just go over some basic questions, but this is the deep Geek-Out session right here. So we're a lot of the simple questions we're going to go over in the other video, but this is some stuff that I just think is just really cool. I just kind of dug into Anavar. So let's go ahead and get started. So here is the structure of Anavar. To really understand the cool stuff about Anavar, we have to kind of back up and look at the structure of testosterone. One of the neatest things I think that about all of this stuff is that it's amazing how you can just ever so slightly change the structure of things, and it has a profound difference as to how it responds in your body. I was really big into Legos as a kid, so this just like blows my mind. The structure of Anavar, C19H30O3. So, they're the same components in table sugar, but this is not table sugar. So, it's really cool. So let's back up a little bit. This is a structure of Anavar. We're going to first start with the structure of testosterone. Okay. So if you look really closely at the two of these, they're really not that different. There's only a couple slight differences. And just digging into some of the differences here. Now another one we'll throw in is DHT. Okay. As we know already, Anavar is a close variant to DHT. They're very, very close. Not exactly the same, but very, very close. So it's kind of in the DHT family. So one of the biggest things about, one of the biggest differences between both of these, testosterone and DHT and Anavar, is that testosterone is much more androgenic because it can actually be converted into estrogen. So we don't have to worry about that with DHT and with Anavar. It doesn't happen. So that's the biggest reason why we put those two kind of on the side. But there are a couple things that do happen when testosterone actually converts into DHT. There's an enzyme that does that. It's called 5-alpha reductase. So it's a pretty cool enzyme, but it changes something in the structure. And if you notice right here, there's a double bond into this ring structure here. So we're going to reduce that, take that off, and add a hydrogen bond to it. We're going to change that down a little bit and then convert it to DHT. Now here we go. We have DHT, a completely different thing, which is pretty neat. So also you'll see the same type of thing over here does not have that double bond. So that makes it pretty neat. One of the things that Anavar does have that separates it from DHT is that if you notice the ring here, this ring has an oxygen in it. So that oxygen actually is a protective feature. This is synthetic. So this is not, technically it's not a natural, it's not naturally found in the body. This one is. But this one, they inserted an oxygen in here. And the way that, the reason why they did that, or one of the benefits of having that oxygen in there, is that it makes it immune to the deactivation of 3-alpha hydroxysteroid dehydrogenase. So with that, that's 3-alpha HSD. So it protects this region. It changes the structure. It changes the three-dimensional orientation of this whole setup here, so that the enzyme, your body's natural enzyme that deactivates DHT, there are metabolic enzymes that are activating and deactivating. So this enzyme here, 3-alpha HSD, it deactivates DHT. It's not permanent, but because it can reactivate, it can go both ways, but still, it deactivates DHT because of the structure here. So if we add an extra hydrogen bond, it shifts the way that the whole shape is set up. So it doesn't even fit into the enzyme. So this one can't be deactivated by this particular enzyme, which is pretty cool. That's pretty cool. Pretty neat part of that. And that adds to the half-life, which is 12 hours for Anavar. So you get a good long stretch out of that. So from a dosage standpoint, it's always nice to take Anavar usually twice a day if you can, because of that half-life issue. But that is a pretty neat aspect to it that I thought was really cool. About remember, all of this I'm drawing it out flat, but these are all three-dimensional shapes. That the enzymes have to wrap their arms around in order to be able to lock in and cause anything to happen. So it's pretty neat. one of the things about Anavar that we all know is that Anavar can be what they call liver toxic. I'm going to call it more mild liver toxicity. This isn't, liver toxicity. It might be a little bit of a stretch. As long as it's used appropriately, then I wouldn't consider it really toxic necessarily. So, and I'm talking in real practice, so most people that when I prescribe Anavar, it's on patients that already have clean liver function. So if your liver's doing well to begin with, and you make sure you stay hydrated while you're on it. And I always recommend you take a liver cleanse, a little bit more for overkill, but I like to keep the liver clean, while you're on it. And you only run it for a certain amount of time, usually 8 weeks, 6 to 8 weeks at a time. And then at that point, I like to get a repeat set of labs on my patients. And at that point, they usually don't have any liver issues at all. Like their liver function is just as clean as when they started. So, so for most conservative practical purposes, I wouldn't consider that liver toxic. So that's why I said mild. But the reason why it's liver toxic, why is Anavar liver toxic and our natural DHT that's floating around in our system isn't? They look pretty similar. So the reason why is because of a methyl group, 17 alpha methylated androgen. It's in that category of hormones that have this methyl group, which is this little guy right here, that little guy right there. So because of that, it makes it it makes it a little toxic, a little toxic, just a little bit to the liver, So that's that part right there. So pretty interesting. I don't know if you guys can see that. So so I thought that part was pretty cool about Anavar. One of the other things that I found when I was doing some research into Anavar and its components and how it works, everybody always says stuff, and you guys know this about me, that like whenever I read things, stuff that's online, when people say just stuff, a generalized statement, I can't sit still. I have to like dig in. Okay, well, why exactly does that happen? How exactly does that happen? And I have to like dig into the mechanics behind it. One of the things people say about Anavar is that Anavar is a cutter, or it's a fat loss or weight loss, type of medication. So really, it's so I have seen in medical practice, I've seen how it helps people lose weight. Generally speaking, I prefer to think about Anavar more like an anabolic, so if your body it has an increased motivation, your mechanisms are more anabolic, your body's utilizing protein, and you're doing what you're supposed to do by working out on a regular basis, then Anavar will assist you in that, which means you'll be able to work out harder, therefore you should be losing more weight. So I kind of look at it stepwise like that. But I found some interesting pieces of information, some studies, some pieces of information that can lead someone to think that it's possible that that Anavar, along with other anabolic steroids, Anavar can decrease your body's production of thyroid binding globulin. So we talk a lot about sex hormone binding globulin. There's also a thyroid binding globulin, which basically does the same thing except for thyroid. It binds onto your thyroid hormones, predominantly T3, locks it up and prevents it from being used. That's the important one, T3. So, if you can't utilize or if you only have a certain percentage of thyroid T3 that you're able to use, then that limits the amount of metabolic effect you can have. So if there's anything we can do to introduce in the body to decrease our thyroid binding globulin, which could be, like in reality, what I found, the research I found was that whenever you add any kind of anabolic type medications, as far as like from a steroid standpoint, Anavar, testosterone, all of those will decrease the thyroid binding globulin. So in effect, what that does is that it releases more free T3. So if you have more free T3 naturally, then your body is able to handle its metabolic processes more efficiently and more quickly. So I guess you can kind of think of it as a fat loss or weight loss or cut or burn or whatever you want to call it. But it's kind of interesting in how that works. So these were some things that I picked up that I thought you guys might find interesting, that are a little beyond what most people say or what most people know or understand about Anavar. So I thought it was kind of cool. I just wanted to share it with everybody. This is a really neat medication that it has to be used for certain conditions. There are side effects, with Anavar, with any DHT product. There are DHT type side effects, so that would be acne, hair loss. Those are the big ones. You have to be careful that you don't overdo your anabolic character, or you're going to have red blood cell issues. So hemochromatosis, polycythemia, those types of things. So where you have to donate blood more often. But these things are pretty neat. Finasteride is one of the medications that's prescribed to help diminish the DHT type side effects. So that decreases the conversion from testosterone into DHT. Once you're taking Anavar, finasteride isn't going to really do anything for that at all. It's already in that format, so there's nothing to really reduce from that standpoint. But it will limit your DHT coming from your testosterone, so that can be helpful from that standpoint. But I thought it was interesting. Thought it was a cool topic to go over. So check this out. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Stay healthy.